Crazy, crazy day for me, as always, but it's getting crazier. I'm glad you guys can see me. Um, I don't see that many great plays today. I saw this play, EBIO. It's up. It's a bullish chart, but it's up only because several chat rooms are kind of pumping it. Um, and that's not a good catalyst to buy, even though the chart is strong. If you look at the daily chart, let's see, 100 days. Right in here. I mean, this is a bullish chart, but it's up for the wrong reasons. So I've been short biased. Today I made a few hundred shorting it when it, failed to hold its morning spike. I guess I could have made a few hundred more if I timed it perfectly, but it's just so boring. I covered it at 133. It's at 134. I made like 5 cents a share on my short. It's just not volatile enough. But part of the reason why I do it is not just, to make a few cents a share, but also because it's a good example. This is what I like to short. I like shorting these kinds of stocks that get pumped by chat rooms or newsletters, even though it's not a great chart, because it's up for the wrong reasons. If and when those chat rooms and websites sell, that becomes some predictable downside, even though it's not that much. So it's very far from being a perfect example, but it's, I want to teach you the mindset, and that is very important. A lot of you guys just trade random stocks, anything that's moving with random catalysts. For me, I want the catalyst to make sense. AMD, if you remember, this is not the most exciting stock in the world at all. And I was buying on the dip. Where was it? One of these dips. Right in here at 4-ish, because this is an earnings winner. And this was the earnings win back in late April. It did absolutely nothing because, frankly, it's too big of a company to really move. But once it broke the initial spike highs here at $4 a share, this is a potential buy. And I bought it, I think my average was like 404, and I got out at 414, but now 451. So if you wait for these kinds of right catalysts, buying earnings winners, shorting pumps, the odds are in your favor. It's not an exact science. Some of these stocks are so slow, but I want you guys to at least get on the right track. Otherwise you're trading choppy stocks like CLRB, which could go up, could go down, or choppy stocks like WATT, which went up and then they had a technical breakdown, then they had the FCC approval. These are not perfect catalysts, and I actually had a loss on WATT, even though they got FCC approval here. The chart just wasn't that good. So the news was amazing, but a lot of people are asking, Tim, they got FCC approval. That's really big news. Well, maybe the FCC approval was already priced in. There's a thing called buy on rumor and sell on news. Maybe this was a good example. So I cut my losses fast, and I don't look back. Too many people, look at the news and they're like, it has to go, it has to move, the news is too big. Don't fight price action. While I care about catalysts, price action is king. So sometimes I do have to cut losses quickly, and this week I've done a lot of loss cutting. EBIO no volume. Well, yeah, I mean, first of all, there's decent volume. It's 3.5 million, but the reason why it was up is because several chat rooms are buying all at the same time. There's several chat rooms that work together, and they coordinate these kinds of manipulative attacks, long and short. And you have to be aware of that. And you can look just on Twitter, they're all tweeting about it. Unlike me, with my chat room, I don't want outsiders to know my positions. So if I'm in a stock long or short, only people in my chat room know. When you have other chat rooms who are trying to manipulate the price, they're going to post it in their chat room, get all their members in, and then they're also going to try and get social media in, because that's manipulation. For me, I don't want to do that. I trade with a very small account. I don't want you following my alerts. I don't want to manipulate stocks. I don't want social media to follow any of my picks. So that's the difference between me and a lot of these other chat rooms. So you have to recognize that. Um, how are you guys doing today? Have you made any money or learned anything? Contrary to popular thought, it's not just about making money. If you don't make money, if you don't trade, if you even maybe lose a little, but you learn, that is a good day. I know a lot of you guys with a few $1,000s to your name, you want to grow your account as fast as possible, but you have to build an educational foundation first. It doesn't matter if you make $10,000 on lucky trades, you're just going to lose it because you don't have the right skill, you don't have the right mindset. So learning, I know it's not as fun. I know people are probably giving you crap saying, oh, I'm trading penny stocks, and people are like, oh, it's the Wolf of Wall Street, you're just getting scammed. In reality, if you actually truly want to learn this game, there's going to be naysayers with everything you do, especially like a really hated upon niche like this. But if you gradually learn to focus on the right patterns and you learn to focus on the right catalysts, it's not about the money that you make in the beginning. It's about building your educational foundation. Tim Grittani lost. He actually had a tweet the other day where I favorited it because, he said, look, I studied for 3 months. Let me find this tweet. I have to show you this because this is such a great response, and I want to show you. Tim Grittani is arguably the most successful trader in the past 5 years, literally in the world, who shows every trade. Let's see. I know I favorited it. Right here, May 24th. So I said too many people want instant success. It doesn't work that way. You need to learn, adapt, and pay your dues. Even Croy Runner, who's Tim Grittani, lost at first. And Joe said, hey, Tim Grittani, how long did it take you to achieve consistent success? Might be encouraging for us beginners. And Tim Grittani replied, about 3 months of studying and 6 months of trading before I started to see even a little consistency. So when the single best trader in the world says roughly 9 months before he starts getting consistent, that's a good framework for you. Now, to be fair, in the past 4 or 5 years since Tim Grittani started with me, our educational database and video lesson library and webinar library has exploded. So I don't think that it would necessarily take you 9 months before you start seeing consistency. The beauty of this is that, every webinar is archived, all these video lessons, every single play. Tim Grittani has now done, I don't know, maybe 100 webinars. Michael Good has done probably 200 or 300 webinars. Mark Crook has done roughly 100 webinars. I've done like 200 or 300 webinars. So you have this huge, huge database, and it's going to quicken up your learning time. Obviously, I know there's a lot of content. I know some people get overwhelmed, but at the same time, even though it's a lot of content, what you'll begin to see is that there really aren't that many different catalysts. There really aren't that many different patterns. It's just rinse and repeat. So you can start getting frustrated that I don't move on to any new topics, that I repeat myself a lot. And once you start getting that frustration, that's a good thing because you'll start to see that there isn't that much to this game. And sometimes I win, sometimes I lose. I win more than I lose, so I'm doing things right. But at the same time, once you study and you really compound your studies, it gets easier. 3, 4, 5, 6 months in, I really think that if you study just maybe an hour or two per day between me, Grittani, Crook, Good, all of our webinars, the video lessons. I have nearly 4,000 video lessons, but the reason why I number the video lessons in 5-minute segments is so that I can really, understand my whole library's running time. And if you divide, let's do the math, 3,800 times 5 minutes each, we're talking about 19,000 minutes, 316 hours. So if you do, let's say 2 hours a day, we're talking 6 months of video lessons. If you do 3 hours a day or 4 hours a day, then we're talking, 2 or 3 months. Now I get it. Sometimes you're going to miss a video lesson, but you have to look at what I teach in these webinars and video lessons as kind of history lessons. You're learning the history of pumps. You're learning the history of these catalysts. We detail every single play. And if you watch them chronologically, as I suggest, I think what you'll begin to see is that the pump and dump market and these earnings winners kind of move in waves just like the stocks themselves. I'm saying like the number of good plays in 1 month might be like 20 good plays, and then the next month maybe 25 good plays. Then the next month maybe 30 good plays. So there's an uptrend month over month over month. And then maybe in the summer it goes down to maybe like 12 good plays per month, and then like maybe 8 good plays per month. I mean, right now, for the past 4 months, we're talking 30, 40, sometimes 50 or 60 good plays per month. It's been an incredible start to 2016, especially in the past few weeks. But some months are better than others. So it's not an exact science. And this is what makes teaching so fun and also yet so challenging too. So it's really important that you guys have the right mindset, because I know it's confusing. I know you want instant success, but you have to really persevere through the beginning stages, and you have to put in the time with the education. You can't just, skim through education, because it'll cost you in the long run. A lot of people want to skimp out on education, and you can't. You can't skip class and expect to learn. You're either going to learn from me and my millionaire students, or the market will teach you. And trust me, the market is a lot less pleasant to deal with, because you won't even know the lesson until you lose $5,000, $10,000. Sometimes people lose $50,000, or even I've heard people lose $100,000 or $200,000 about cutting losses quickly before it really sinks in. So I don't want that to happen to you. I do understand though that a lot of these rules that I teach are so counterintuitive and so weird that you don't believe me, or that you don't believe that they're crucial to your success, and you ignore them, and then you have a giant loss. All I can do is try and warn you. That's all I can do. I can't study for you. But let's take some questions, because I'm looking, EBIO, I'm not going to re-short it and try and make like 3 cents a share. It was a decent short, but just not much downside. VSLR is up on the analyst upgrade, but it's a terrible long-term chart, and it never holds its gains. But then it's also a Friday, so I don't really want to short. STKL is also up. This is in the same kind of sector. Both of these are potential shorts next week, but you have to be very careful on Fridays. MGT has continued to hold this 220, 230, 240 level, but it just barely can bounce these days. So, this is a potential short, and if and when it cracks 225-ish, I mean, this is nearly definitely going back down to the ones, because it's such a piece of crap. AMD is a nice earnings winner. That would be a potential buy, but I'm not going to chase it because it has a tendency not to hold its gains. NERV, as I said in the watch list, you can make a bull or bear case for it, and I'm not surprised that today it's been choppy, because, the bulls were winning in the morning, and then the bears won, and then the bulls won, and now the bears are winning. It's choppy because there's very conflicting indicators. The news is positive, but the company needs a lot of cash, and you can even make a case that the news is questionable. So when you have conflicting indicators, I just do nothing. The key, as I said in yesterday's video lesson, was to buy the multi-month and multi-year breakout above 10, and then you sell it at 10.50, 11, 11.50, 12, however much time you had, and with patience. But now that it's already done that breakout, there's no play. And I screwed it up by buying it at 9.70 before it broke 10, and I didn't even properly look at all of the indicators. All right, let's see what people are saying. Caesar lost 1,700 today. Wow, Caesar, you got to do a better job cutting losses quickly. I'm guessing you played Nerve, and that's a scary stock. Dr. Zero has no trades today. Hindsight says finding consistency with trading. Good. Smile and Shine burned 340 calories on the treadmill while finishing up the level 2 DVD. Good. Multitasking. The Swede says, Tim, many have been asking about stocks to trade lag, both in chats and private. Are they doing upgrades? Stock to Trade is a brand new software. So I apologize for all the bugs, but it is a huge, huge undertaking. We actually had the Stocks to Trade team. We have 12 people now out in LA this entire week. And so we've been working on improvements. If you have any issues or questions about Stocks to Trade, email support@stockstotrade.com. My team will help you out. Trade Not Love has made 1,500 shorting TTNP and Hero. Good job. Let's see. Shrimp and Grits says, ooh, that makes me hungry. DVD day, didn't see anything promising. Good. I like that you guys are learning to, either study or trade. When there's nothing that's a great setup, that's when you go to study. When there are some great setups, that's when you study, but you're studying actual live trading. Either way, you should be putting in a few hours a day of studying, whether it's from DVDs and webinars and video lessons or from live trading. There's really no sense in taking a day off. I understand you want to sometimes, and if you need to, take a day off by all means. Don't get burnt out. But understand that you need to build your educational foundation. It is not going to build itself. So every day that you take off is just another day wasted where you don't have the proper education, you don't have the proper mindset to take advantage of plays if and when they pop up. This whole thing that I teach is a waiting game. You are waiting for the right plays, you are waiting for the right patterns. And if and when they pop up, you need to be prepared. There is nothing worse for me as your teacher, and for you who's, ideally want to become my next millionaire student. There's nothing worse than if there is a really solid play and you are unprepared. And I don't know when the next great play will be. It might be later today, it might be tomorrow, or I guess next week, or maybe 2 weeks. But it's up to you to come prepared for it. Too many of you don't have the right broker. You don't have the right knowledge about the patterns. You don't have the right knowledge about risk management and goal setting. So only you can do that for you. And we're all different. I might trade a little more aggressively, or lately I've been trading, a little more passively with smaller positions just because, I don't see anything truly, truly great other than MGT. That's a great supernova short straight out of my DVDs. But we're all different, and we all learn differently, and we all have different, risk levels and risk tolerances and account sizes. So you have to make this for you. Don't try to compare yourself with other traders. Don't be like, oh, this other trader learned everything in like 2 months. Now I have to do it. Tim Grittani is one of the smartest traders I've ever met. And if it took him 9 months, I'm just giving that as a guide to what you can expect. And he's studying every single day. He's trading every single day. And again, he did not have the full library of content that we do now a few years later. But with the smartest guy taking 9 months, you can probably expect to do somewhere around the same. But, after a year or two, you really have no excuse if you put in the time and effort to learn. A lot of people don't. A lot of people, put in like 30 minutes, or they put in an hour a day for the first 2 weeks, then they forget about it. There's a million things. I'm actually going to write a blog post about this that I think students do wrong, and it's good to call it out so that, you learn from what people have done incorrectly. Let's see. Jorge says, I had a good plan but still lost and stuck to the rules. If you had a good plan and you lost and you stuck to your rules, it should be a small loss, and that's okay. Let's see. Legal Pimp says, didn't trade because didn't like anything. Good patience. Trading Days says, bad day for execution. Correct. Quinton Machine says, I want to short XGTI. What do you think about this? I think that's a bad idea. XGTI is a 15-cent stock. I was shorting it the other day in the 17s, and I was a little too early. Where was it? Right in here I was shorting because I thought that it would panic, and instead it bounced for a few hours and then tanked to the 14s. But it's so tough to short these under dollar stocks, let alone under 20 cent a share stocks. It's just scary. So And the thing has dropped from 28 cents. It's down 50% off its highs. So as I say in my DVDs, I don't chase stocks that are down 50%. It can still bounce. Currencies says, I don't dare trade until I get more DVDs under my belt. Good plan. E-Bogey says, my focus is on education with some trading, maybe on average a trade per week. That's a good plan. The Swede, Jonas, has made $2,000 in trading profits today following all the rules. Everybody congratulate the Swede. Golf clap. Good job, buddy. That's awesome. Corvette Girl says, I'm really liking this penny stocking framework DVD. Yes, that DVD goes over my 7-step plan with these pumps. It's amazing how well they stick to it. MGT has stuck to my penny stocking framework 7-step plan to a T. It's crazy. Great Mass says, first time watching live stream. So far, so cool. Good. Glad you like it. Hindsight says 3 weeks, no losing trades, maybe being too conservative. Hey, that's a good streak, but don't feel the pressure. Sometimes when you have no losses, you feel like you're like pitching like a perfect game and you don't want to have one loss. Sometimes, it's not about perfection and, you're going to take trades too quick just to keep up with the perfection. For me, I don't worry if I lose a little. I've lost on probably half my trades this week, but I'm still up this week because my gains are bigger than my losses. Best Bet on Black says, what about LX21? I thought he was the best ever trader. He's the best penny stock trader, I think, in the past 20 years, but not in the past 5 years on a percent returns ratio. Grittani has gone from 1,500 to nearly 3 million. LX21, he runs a few hedge funds now, so he can't report publicly anymore on Profitly, but I'm guessing he makes, 1, maybe 2 million a year. So on a dollar basis, yeah, he's making good money, maybe 3 million. I don't even know, but he's making a few million a year. But it's not as impressive as somebody who comes up from a few $1,000s, in my mind. A lot of what LX21 does is now using his big account size to his advantage. Like he can take on specialized brokers that have a minimum requirement of like $1 million. And he can get borrows on stocks. He can box stocks. You guys and me, as we're trading with small accounts, we don't have access to that. So it's good and bad. Let's see. HK Knight says, chasing is a big no-no. However, there have been many times where I should have chased in hindsight. How can we get better at chasing? I don't like that comment at all. I miss a lot of stocks because I don't want to chase. And I don't think you should ever get good at chasing, especially where we are historically. This is the second longest bull market ever. You have to keep history in perspective, where I don't know if this bull market is going to end right now or soon, but you don't want to be chasing 7-8 years into a bull market. You want to pull back and be much more conservative. Chasing is something that you might want to do at the beginning stages of a bull market. And you won't have to worry about that for I don't know how many years. We need to go through a bear market first, and then there needs to be signs of a new bull market. But right now, we're towards the end or, at best case scenario, the middle of this bull market. We are definitely not in the early stages of the bull market, historically speaking. Obviously, anything can change, but if you say this time is different, that's a classic mistake. So for me, I think that we're probably going to have a bear market either later this year or next year or the year after. So sometime in the next few years. And I'm always trying to prepare for that because I don't want to chase. I don't want to get crushed. A lot of what I teach works in the bear and bull markets. A lot of what I teach kind of looks cowardly in a bull market because I don't chase. But it serves you well to be a coward in all markets, even if you miss some of the gains. I know you want to be aggressive. I know you want to push it. But if you do that, and even if you are right, you'll be harmed in your thinking when a bear market comes. And because I'm trying to teach you skills that you're going to have for the rest of your life, in your children's and your grandchildren's lives. There's going to be a lot of bear markets. So for me, I want to teach a strategy that works in all markets. Chasing is a very big no-no. And in bull markets, it's okay because, as you said, you would have been rewarded in hindsight. But in bear markets, if you chase, you will get destroyed. And many people who lose in bear markets simply are just, it's not because they're dumb, it's just because they're unprepared and they have the wrong teachings. There's a lot of teachers out there who get close to having millionaire students, and then their students lose 50, 75% of their money because the way that they made their $300,000 or $500,000 was erroneous. It was artificial because they were taught to chase, they were taught to overtrade, and then they lose most of what they make, or sometimes all of what they make. And I don't want to rip on any newsletters or any individuals, but trust me, I've seen too many people blow up their accounts, and it's due to flawed teachings. So it's on the teacher. And that's why I take my job very seriously. There is great, great responsibility when I'm teaching rules. Let's see. Ebogie says, I always find more reasons to not buy than buy. Maybe that's the best thing. I'm at a 60% win rate, but small. Correct. Most of these stocks are junk. Most of the setups that you see don't have good enough odds. I'm not the most popular guy around brokers because I tell my people that they shouldn't be trading as much as they think they do. A lot of people complain about the PDT rule, and so they open up a brokerage account with a broker like SureTrader. I don't think that's necessary. I don't mind the PDT rule because it forces you to take a look at better trades only. And I know that's frustrating, and sometimes, it can be annoying. In fact, when I first began teaching, I thought it was really bad. But now, as I approach nearly a decade in the teaching world, you guys trade too much. You need regulations, and you need obstacles in your way to reduce your trading. If you look at Mark Crook's trades, amazing student, just passed $530,000 in profits, I think. He's making, like $5,000, $10,000 a week. And guess what? 80% of his profits come from 6% of his trades. So just think about that. You don't need to trade as much as you think. And when you say e-bogey, you find more reasons not to buy than to buy, that's great. You're in the right. There are so many indicators as to why you shouldn't be buying. Best Bet on Black says, but the stocks aren't as volatile. I mean, we've had record volatility in the penny stock market in the past 2, 3, 4 years. I would say this compares favorably to the tech bubble of 99 and 2000. And we know the crash happened right after that. So there is a little bit of history that you can compare today's market environment to. The overall market might not have spiked up as much, but with these penny stocks going just absolutely insane, that's what it was like back in 99 and 2000. And we didn't see that in the bear market of 2008, 2009, 2007-ish. Let's see. Little Money says, I'm 3/4 of the way through all the live stream webinars. Cool. Little Money, what do you think? You like it? Corvette Girl says, I have learned to not follow anyone into a trade and definitely not chase. Good. That is very important. I know it's difficult. I know you're tempted to just follow alerts blindly, but that is not going to increase your knowledge at all. Even if following somebody's alerts might make you some money, that just makes you a follower for life. That's not what I want. HK Knight says, high probability trading by Marcel explains the reality of starting a career in trading and how long it takes to become consistent. I agree. That's a great book. Let's see. Nakio says, study is the key. I bought all your DVDs and still learning every time. Good. The Swede says, Tim, I love that there are short, it's effective, and facts mostly, and that is just so awesome. Thank you. Currency says, I just finished Disc 2 of How to Make Millions. I'll be at it for a while. Yeah, I got to apologize that my How to Make Millions DVD came in at 35 hours. When I first started creating it, it was supposed to be 16, and then 20, and then 24 hours, but I just wanted to include every single thing that I've learned, and, It just became a massive project. TTNP tank. Let's see. Yeah, I mean, it's a good tank. I wouldn't chase it here as a short. EBIO is just fading a penny at a time. I just can't chase it again for a few pennies. It's just not volatile enough. But at least it's a good example. Shrimp and Grits, watch my GNIN videos today. Must watch. I agree. Thank you. Richie says, should I finish watching the DVDs first and then the webinars? Again, it's not an exact science. The DVDs, the webinars, the video lessons, it's a mix. I wish that there was some exact science, like, okay, watch this, and then this. It's what you're comfortable at. We all perceive different kinds of stuff in the penny stock market differently. Some of us, really just like level 2 action. Some of us like fundamental action, fundamental research. It's totally up to you. All I could say is start with Penny Stocking and Penny Stocking Part 2. Those are my two most basic DVDs. And I also think my How to Make Millions DVD is a good overview for getting you on the right path. A lot of the other DVDs are more specialized in their content. You kind of need an overview. That's why How to Make Millions, a lot of it is not just about stock charts. It's about getting on the right path and you're getting the right mentality. That is half the battle. It's crazy. It sounds simple, like, oh, I just want to be a millionaire. Okay, you want to be a millionaire, but what are you willing to do to get there? The whole thesis, if you could boil my How to Make Millions DVD down into one sentence, it's that to teach you to make $1,000 at a time. Because if you can make roughly $1,000 at a time on a stock, it adds up over time. All you need is 1,000 trades of $1,000 each. Obviously, you're going to have some losses. Some gains won't be 1,000. Some gains will be bigger than 1,000. But overall, it boils it down so that you don't feel like you have to make $1 million all at once. Myself and none of my millionaire students have made $1 million or even close to it all at once. The most any of us has made is, Tim Grittani's made like $200,000 in a day. I've made like $200,000 in a day. Michael Good, I think maybe his top is like $100,000 in a day. And those don't happen right at the beginning. That happens, when your account is bigger. So if you focus on learning how to make $1,000 in a day, that's a good start. Zeppelin says Nerve is currently bouncing off $11. Would it be a good buy? The problem with it is, with Nerve, maybe it bounces, maybe it doesn't, but they could do a financing at any time. They might announce it after the close today. They might announce it after or pre-market Monday. And if they do a financing, it'll probably be at lower prices, considering the stock was at $3.50 before the news. So if they do a financing at like $8 or $9 or even $7, the stock will likely drop back down there. But then again, do I want to bet against it? Because what if they don't do a financing, and what if it does squeeze? I don't see good odds either way. And when you don't see good odds either way, you do nothing. Let's see. The Swede says, Tim, I have studied so many hours. In my first year, I did chase so much. Now about 6 to 8 hours a day studying and only a few hours sleep has really clicked. Be careful, Jonas. Don't burn out. Sleep is important. But I'm glad that it's clicking. All the studying has changed me totally, and chasing is a no-no. Exactly. I would rather miss a trade, and I miss a lot of trades, as you can see, than chase and be wrong, because I'm practicing good habits. Proper Gotham says, have you seen an FDA approval like TTNP fill the gap and go green to red? I mean, whether it's FDA approval like TTNP or it's FCC approval like WATT, sometimes the news is priced in already. And this is very confusing for newbies because they're like, this news is huge, the stock should go up, I'm going to double down and triple down. You don't know people's expectations. The stock market is a very difficult game because you can't predict what everyone else expected. So for me, like with earnings wins, I don't want to guess earnings ahead of time. I don't want to be biased in any way. Earnings might absolutely suck, but the CEO might say something positive in the conference call. They might have a new product that's coming out. There are any number of ways to spin stuff, but all that matters is the reaction to news. So if a company gets FDA approval and the stock does nothing but drop, I respect that drop. I don't try and change the minds of everyone who's selling or shorting. If earnings are not that good or they're just decent, but the stock spikes 20, 30%, I'm buying, because especially if it's like a multi-month breakout. I don't just buy randomly. But if there's a multi-month breakout and the stock is uptrending after earnings, that's fantastic. Lionsgate Film, LGF. This is not exactly my ideal kind of play because it's a $20 stock, but it had a massive pre-market drop right here. It was trading at 22-ish, and it dropped pre-market all the way to 19-ish. And then it had a beautiful spike. And now today it's uptrending a little bit. But this all happened after the stock was trading in the 19s again. So you have this initial spike after earnings. It holds it. Then for whatever reason, on low volume, it drops, and then it comes right back to the 21, 22 level. The buyers are right. The reaction to earnings is what matters. Whoever was doing this selling, they were going against what the stock wanted to do. And the stock corrected and proved it to everybody. So for me, I'm a big, big, big believer in looking at price action and really reacting to that. It's okay, Miley. Let's see. Richie says, I listened to some webinars in the car and I'm caught up on them since February. Good job, Richie. But don't drive and study. That might take your brain in some dangerous territory, and I don't want you getting in a car crash. Shripam says, where can we get the latest data on short positions? Yahoo Finance is too old. Yeah, I mean, welcome to the short selling industry. It's all old data. There's no known data source of up-to-date short data. It just doesn't exist. You have to remember, I do a lot of shorting, so you might mistakenly believe that a lot of people are short sellers out there. Short selling represents less than 1% of the overall stock market. Nobody gives a shit about short selling. So the data, while it's old, that's the best that you have. And for me, the data, helps. You can see when there's going to be a big short squeeze, like on GSAT, when there was 50 million shares. Even if the data was a little more updated and it was like 54 as opposed, actually maybe they updated it. Let me see. I believe that the short data, which was a month old when I was shorting or when I was buying GSAT for the short squeeze, I think it was 53 million short. So I go to Yahoo Finance, key statistics. It should have. Okay, so they haven't updated it. So it's 51 million, and now it's like roughly a month old. But whether the prior month the short position was 53 million or this month it's 51 million, even now if it's, let's say, 49 or whether it goes back to 53, you know that there are a shitload of shorts. So the day that it was spiking, you can go back and look at historical prices when they had the rumors of FCC approval. So this one actually did better. So Watt got the FCC approval. GSAT was only rumored to get the FCC approval, and yet GSAT spiked from $1.81 to $3 a share. So the thing nearly doubled on rumors of FCC approval, and Watt got the FCC approval and did absolutely nothing. So that's just a good example of showing you, how buy the rumor, sell the news actually works. Buying the rumor of FCC approval scared the 50 million shorts. And even on the day that it was spiking, only 14 million shares traded. So when you have a rumor on a Friday of FCC approval, And, this was over the course of the day, 14 million. After the rumors came out, probably my guess is at most 5 million out of the 50 million shorts were covering. So that still leaves 45 million shorts to cover the next day. And the next day it went up to $3 a share. Because shorts are scared of rumors. They don't know how the stock is going to act. So that's a very good example right there. But the data wasn't new, but it was still very useful to know whether it had 49 or 50 or 60 million shares short. It was much greater than the whole volume. Let's see. On the first red day of FLXN, would you short it over the long weekend? Is the stock market closed on Monday? Oh my God, that would be amazing if it did. I don't even know. Yes! Yes, we have Monday off. Oh, fantastic. I have so much to do. Thank God, Memorial Day. I love it. The question was, where was it? FLXN. Would I short it over the long weekend? No. I don't want to short a $15 stock over the weekend that spiked so much and probably had good news. Short pump and dumps over long weekends. Don't short real companies. Quinton says, I'm surprised in XGTI. Why are you surprised, Quinton? It's down 50% off its highs. When a stock is down 50% off its highs and it can still get pumped, guess what? It can bounce. VSLR and TTMP, there's no play. I don't want to chase on a Friday. I don't want to short on a Friday. Nothing. What do I think about shorting PEIX? PEIX was up a lot yesterday. It downtrended on Wednesday, and then yesterday it downtrended. Today it's rebounding. I have no idea what to do. A lot of these stocks that you're bringing up, I have no idea what to do because they don't fit my patterns. Nakio says, do you have an overnight play for today, Tuesday? No, Nakio, it doesn't work that way. I know a lot of you are like, oh, I want a pick of the day. I wait for the patterns to come to me. I don't say, oh, it's a Friday, I must do a trade. I must have an overnight play because that works for my schedule. The stock market does not give a shit about you or me or our schedules. The stock market will do whatever it wants. It is your job to respond to whatever patterns it throws at us, but only when the patterns are good. You do not have to know what a stock is going to do all the time. In fact, the vast majority of time, I don't know what a stock is going to do. And neither do you, and neither does anybody. The reason why 90% of traders lose money is because they try to force their own hypotheses and their own assumptions on stocks without amazing indicators. You're trying to beat the odds all the time. For me, because I realize that, this is a tough game where the odds are against me, I only want to go into trades here or there when there are great odds on my side. EBIO, when it failed to hold the morning spike today, just another failure. I mean, it's failed once, twice, 3 times, 4 times, and now this is the 5th time in the 130, 140 area. Okay? But at the same time, it has a solid base here at like 120-ish. So there's really only like 10 or 15 cents of downside. So while it's a perfect setup for a stock that, fails to hold green, it goes slightly red on the day, chat rooms are pumping it, it's just not up enough for me to be, aggressive short. I covered this thing, 3 hours ago, and it's at the exact place where I covered it. So that was a good cover. Nakio says, I study 5 hours every day and I believe I'm changing my mindset. It's awesome how learning is the key. Good. Wait, I missed some questions. Any questions about stocks to trade, please email support@stockstotrade.com. Support@stockstotrade.com. Any technical billing bug issues, you email support. I pay these people a lot of money. Make them do some work. Can I look at TTNP? I don't understand how all the gains of an FDA run can vanish in a day. It looks like manipulation. It's not manipulation. It's called welcome to the motherfucking stock market. It does not matter what you think about FDA news. It matters what the market tells you. It does not matter what you think about any earnings report. It matters what the market tells you. Learn to be reactive. Learn to press down your own feelings, suppress your own assumptions, and follow the price action. If FDA gives good news and TTNP still drops, maybe it was already priced in. Okay? If TTNP rebounds on Monday, I don't care because the initial price reaction to the news was negative. I'm not trying to guess what the next step in this confusing stock is going to be. I want easy, gimme plays. That has been the secret to my success. I don't trade nearly as much as most people, but I trade less stressful situations. EBIO, once it could not hold green on the day today, even though it's not a volatile stock, the odds were in my favor because I had the right pattern, the right setup, and the right catalyst. The ball was in my court. All I had to do was click execute. That is what I want you to recognize. I want you to learn these setups so that you can say, wait a minute, let me recognize this. When I bought AMD the other day at 404, should I have held it a few days? In hindsight, yes. But I still made a few $100s holding overnight, and I was basically I got out of it not because the stock did anything wrong. I got out of it because I was overwhelmed. I had like 3 plays, which is too many. But once it breaks this day high of 4, and it comes back down to 4 and holds 4, you have 2 opportunities to catch the earnings breakout. Either when it initially breaks 4 and it goes up to 420-ish, or it comes back down to 4 and then the next day it's at 415, 420-ish. You had 2 opportunities. So I don't know what you guys were doing. And remember, I'm trading with a small account. I made a few $100s. I made like $300. Even now, if I was holding, I still only would have made a little over $1,000. It's a small gain for me, but it's a good example. I waited and I waited and I waited for that breakout. I'm not just going to buy it randomly here at 350 or 360 or 380. I want it to break the recent highs. Now it's an earnings winner with a confirmed technical breakout. The ball comes into my court, and I just have to click execute. And I shoot that ball, and it was a swish. I want you to learn to recognize these gimme setups as opposed to confusing ass stocks like TTNP. It's already uptrended a shitload. Do you want to know why it's down? Because everyone in the world motherfucking already expected the news. That's why. It's not manipulation. It's the stock market. Chicago says MGT is not a short. I disagree. This is straight out of my penny stocking framework DVD. I have dozens of examples of this exact same chart. Look at the volume. The volume has faded dramatically. I'm not shorting it right now because I'm scared of what McAfee and promoters are going to say next. But the chart has not changed in nearly a decade since I began teaching, and it has not changed in nearly 2 decades since I began trading. Ignore historical charts at your own risk. All I can do is share with you what I have learned, and this fits my pattern to a T. And once it takes out 225, 220-ish, it is a goner. It was a goner the other day when McAfee and co. issued a press release that, kind of stalled the inevitable one more day. It's in McAfee's contract that he gets more money if he can keep the stock price above $2 a share. So it's in his own best interest to pump the stock. That said, pumping usually eventually fails. So don't tell me about the companies that he's acquiring or the good coders or hackers that he's acquiring. It fits my patterns to a T. Breezing along said, bearing my soul, made 13,000 on MGT, now lost 5,000 on trading crap. I suck. Breezing along, if I can do basic math, you're still up $8,000. And more importantly, you made money on a perfect play and lost money on shit plays. So not only have you made $8,000, you've also learned important lessons not to trade crap. You do not suck. You actually rock. You actually are making more money than the vast majority of traders, and you're learning. Hopefully. Hopefully you recognize this lesson. When you leave a comment like this, oh, I only made $8,000. I suck. Your attitude and mentality sucks, and it's my job to correct you. Even if you had lost 13,000 on MGT and made 5,000 on trading crap, you're still learning. It is so difficult not to win in the end if you're always learning, because the number of lessons that you can learn is finite, and the money that you can earn is infinite. That is the beautiful equation that we're all dealing with here. Once you learn, let's say, 500 or maybe 1,000 lessons, you learn what not to do, what not to do, what not to do. Okay, do this, do this. I don't know how many lessons specifically there are before you really realize, wait a minute, I know a lot of stuff. I have a good framework. But there's only a certain number of lessons. The number of lessons in the stock market does not grow to infinity. The more you study, whether it's an hour a day or 2 hours a day or 5 hours a day, you are only getting to a place sooner than later of understanding as much as you can about the stock market. And once you reach that place, you will have better odds on every single trade. And then the money that you can make is not limited to 5,000 or 13,000 or even 130,000 or even 1.3 million. You can earn tens of millions of dollars in your life in this niche. Maybe not hundreds of millions, maybe not billions, because this is a small niche, but there is no specific cap on the money that you can make. But you must learn first. And you must have the right mentality. Making $13,000 on MGT and then losing $5,000 on crap, that is win-win. You are rewarded for trading the right setup, and you are punished for trading the wrong setup. Does that make sense? Dr. Zero says, I don't know if I was just the studying suddenly paying off, but as soon as I got stocks to trade, after my E-Trade account closed, I went on a winning streak. Hey, whatever works. E-Trade Pro, yeah. Whatever works. Stocks to trade increases your odds of winning because it has the most number of indicators and the best tools, and it's designed by me. And I've put everything that I've learned in 18 years of stock trading experience into this platform. It cannot hurt you to learn from somebody who's been learning and documenting everything for 18 years. It can only make you smarter. MD says, studying 3 to 4 hours per day since I started 3 weeks. Good. Quinton Machine says, I nailed XGTI for $200 right after you covered. I've been on the right side of the trade 3 times this week. Good job. That's fantastic. In hindsight, I should have given XGTI more time on my shorts. But it's a scary stock, and I have rules in place when a stock is scary. I don't mind making a small amount or losing a small amount. Let's see. Jonathan G says, penny stocking framework is essential to understanding seeing chart patterns. I agree. Thank you. I'm glad you learned. Edu Venezuela says, hey Tim, I just started the challenge and there is something I don't understand. What is the difference between letting the stock develop, not anticipate, and chasing a stock? Sure. So, AMD, we'll use that as an example. The breakout is at $4 a share. That is where I'm most interested in buying, and I bought this stock at 404 because it's only 4 cents a share above the key breakout level. That said, I don't want to chase it now 50 cents a share above the breakout level. Maybe it keeps going, maybe it stops, but I don't know what it does because it's so far away from the breakout level. I'll give you another example. EBIO. When I was shorting it at 140-ish today, it's because it had failed to go green on the day or really hold green. And guess what? I thought it was going to fade maybe 10 or 15, 20 cents a share. I only got a few cents a share. It did go red on the day. I was right in my central thesis that when the chat rooms are pumping it and it can't hold green on the day, it's going to drop. But at the same time, there's support at 130-ish. So I covered. Right now, should I reshort? Because it's red on the day. It's the first red day. It's another failed spike in this book. Most likely it's going to drop back down to 120, 115 next week. So should I short? And the answer is no, because even though I think it's going to keep dropping, it's a Friday afternoon. It could easily still finish green on the day. It hasn't cracked support, so I don't want to chase it here at 133. I don't mind shorting it at 138, 139, 140 because I don't know how far it was going to drop today. I had a thesis. I went in with a plan. It didn't drop as much as I wanted. So I collected nearly $300. I made $300 on AMD. I made $300 on EBIO. Now, neither of them are at the point where I want to rebuy or reshort because they have moved and there is greater risk now. Does that make sense? Let's see. Someone, C. Hugh says, Tim, you did say and predict in penny stocking framework that the market patterns might revert in 2017. I mean, when I first began teaching, I was kind of hoping that I could collapse these patterns so I would not be so addicted to following them and trading. I thought, I'll teach these patterns. If, millions of traders know the patterns will change and the opportunity will stop and I'll finally be free. After nearly a decade of teaching and screaming at my top of my lungs, the vast majority of people still think this niche and that I'm full of shit. And the patterns haven't changed one bit. So I continue to profit. What can you do? All I can do is teach. Let's see. Chris Cruz says The Big Short shows everything that Tim Sykes talks about. I agree. It's a good book, good movie. Watch it. Nakio says the PDT is good because it pushes you to be a sniper and use better strategies. I agree 100%. Some people are like, I don't know what to do. I'm under the PDT. Well, did you ever think about choosing better trades? And if you're in a better trade, you're not as stressed holding overnight. And then if you hold a trade overnight, the PDT becomes irrelevant. So it's a very simple process, but a lot of people don't get that because they think of this as gambling. They think of this as scalping. They think, I need to just be able to get in and out same day. If you focus on the best plays, you don't necessarily need to get in and out the same day. Jay West says, Tim, brand new to the challenge. To be effective, would you recommend I just study the DVDs instead of getting on the webinar or continue doing both? I would do both. These Q&A webinars are very useful. I'm trying to set you guys straight. But also do definitely watch the DVDs. The DVDs are your foundation. These webinars, I'm not into construction. What's after you put down the foundation of a home? I don't know, some sealant maybe to keep the water out of the foundation? It's the next step. If this were a layer cake, the DVDs are the bottom layer and these webinars are the next layer. Let's see. Thoughts on VSLR? Again, I'm not going to short a stock that's up on an analyst upgrade on a Friday afternoon in a solar sector. None of those indicators work well for me. Shorting on Fridays is dangerous. Shorting analyst upgrades are dangerous. If one analyst upgrades the stock, then maybe another analyst will see the same thing and upgrade the stock on Monday. Solar is also going to be influenced by oil, which I can't predict. And Fridays are scary to short. So there is not one indicator that makes me want to short VSLR. The reason why I shorted EBIO is because the stock failed to go green very much. And the reason why it was up is that it was up on several chat rooms pumping it. And it's now failed in a range that it's often failed at. So it had 3 good indicators going for it. That's what made me short. So you just have to try and think about these indicators. I'm working on a guide right now this summer that's going to be kind of like a little checklist for you for your trades. And I think that's going to be very useful. Let's see. Brandon says, just convinced my parents to put $25,000 into my account to trade more, yet I have only made 1 trade. Correct. You don't need to trade as much as you think. And I would not borrow money from parents or anything. I appreciate that your parents are so supportive of you, but you also have to remember, focus on better patterns. Chris says, never chase anyone's trades. Look at what they're trading and see what they did and try to use that as a lesson. Good. Our Noble shorted 100 shares of TTNP, made 30 cents a share. Good job. Crimson Tide was conflicted on TTNB. Good. You should be conflicted. When there's positive news and the stock goes red, I'm conflicted too, so I do nothing. Best bet on Black. Tim, how do you think trading will be over the holiday? I mean, usually during holidays, there's less volume and there's less professionals working, so that increases the volatility and opportunities. Especially around Thanksgiving and Christmas and New Year's, you see a lot of penny stocks that are great for trading. So I don't know if we'll see that with Memorial Day, but that's what sometimes happens. Tim, what do you recommend to people if they want to hold a stock Friday and wait to possibly sell on the following Monday? I would tell them to make sure that there's a good catalyst and a good price action. Ideally, an earnings win with a multi-month breakout. You know, if AMD were breaking $4 a share and this were a Friday afternoon and it closes at like 404 like it did, I would be long over the weekend because it's an earnings winner with a technical breakout. This stock is so useful to me, not because there was so much money to be made. I mean, the breakout is only 50 cents a share, but because it's such a clear top and it's so easy to see the breakout at such a round number like $4 a share. But now it's too extended, so I have no play on it. I wait for the really good setups, and that is what has really built my account. I'm not even looking to make a trade right now. I see no great setups. Caesar says, Tim, when is the best time to short VSLR? Never. Why are you looking to short a stock with an analyst upgrade? The analyst says, look, business is better than we thought. We're upgrading the stock. What in that sentence makes you want to bet against it? Because it's up? You just want to bet against anything that's up? Incorrect. Bet against pump and dumps that are up because they're bound to fall. When an analyst whose job it is to analyze a company says a company is doing better, you should not want to bet against it. You know, analyst upgrades aren't necessarily as good as an earnings win, but it's still a positive indicator. Little Money says, I love having the ability to go back and revive both lessons, or revive both lessons from the past and present, adapting to current market trends. I agree. I know it can probably be confusing. This is like, you know, Back to the Future, or Back to the Future 2, or Interstellar, or now Hodor. There's some temporal paradox going on here, but I love it. Let's see. Yeah, How to Make Millions is all for charity. I can't sell it as part of this challenge. I can't sell it at all because it's specifically a DVD made for charity. And when there's charity, there's very specific rules. So I'm sorry that I can't include it. I probably should have thought about that before I made it, but I didn't really understand the whole charity world. The cool thing is How to Make Millions has now raised $1.3 million for charity. I donate every single penny that I make from that DVD to charity. So while I didn't necessarily do it the perfect way, it's a solid project. Let's see. VSLR is on the move. Yeah, and it's also a Friday afternoon. You shouldn't be looking to like, oh, let me short stocks on the single most dangerous hour of the week. I don't want to short stocks at Friday afternoon unless it's a pump and dump that's collapsing. You know, if MGT was cracking right now through 220, 225, I would probably be short. probably a small position because, he could still issue a positive press release. But I only want to short on a Friday afternoon if there's a solid setup that's, forcing me to. I don't want to risk anything over the weekend. I don't want to stress over the weekend, but I will react if there is a good play. Legion says, I really appreciate you listing not only what you're doing, but why and what you expect. It's incredibly helpful. Thank you. And yes, this is why I differ from other chat rooms where they just have a ticker and the price and they say buy or short. And they want everyone in the chat room to basically do what they're doing. I don't want you to do what I'm doing. And when I write out like a whole explanation, it's sometimes the stock is already moved and people are pissed. Do not try to follow my alerts. They are not like other chat rooms. Okay? I write out everything in my alerts. I write out all my thinking because I want you to learn from my mindset. That is what I find, most useful in teaching. If nobody gives a shit about short selling, why do we have the uptick rule? Good question. So while very few people practice short selling, and there's very few tools for short selling, just like penny stocks, there's a great amount of hatred towards short selling. So I'm a day trader, I'm a short seller, and I'm a penny stock trader. I focus on the three most hated things in finance. And they're all misunderstood. So when there are bear markets, shitty companies get crushed. And a lot of these companies like to blame their troubles on the fact that short sellers are running them into the ground. And, if you were a good company and you had good news, you could easily just squeeze shorts. No good company should ever fear short sellers. It's the bad companies that have to fear short sellers because they have bad news and they're bad companies. So if I was running a company and short sellers were attacking my company, all I would do was work so hard to launch a new product or sign a new contract or release some good earnings, and then you would squeeze the shorts and your stock would go up. It's very simple. But bad companies don't think that way. Bad companies are bad. They don't have good earnings. They don't have new contracts. They don't have new products. And so they're defenseless against short sellers, which is the way that it should be because they're bad fucking companies. They deserve to go to zero. So instead of bad companies going to zero, they like to lure in lawmakers. Instead of winning new contracts and shorting and squeezing short sellers, they got basically the market regulators to enact legislation to protect them from short sellers. I think it's the dumbest thing, but as you'll see, if and when we have another bear market, short sellers will be blamed. Not the fact that there's no fundamentals, not the fact that there's no job growth, not the actual facts of why the economy sucks, but short sellers because it's misunderstood and they're easy targets. So that is why you have the uptick rule. And that is why my education business is booming, getting good information out instead of fear. Does that make sense? Quinton says, VSLR might be going under, double topped hard. Guys, you need to stop this bullshit. Even if it double topped, what if an analyst comes out with an upgrade pre-market Monday morning? Why are you looking to short a company with good news? Quinton, smack yourself in the head 42,000 times. And maybe after the 41,999 time, it'll get through to your head that I only want to short shitty companies and companies with bad news and pump and dumps. Not earnings winners, not stocks that are getting upgraded by analysts, not contract winners. Stop looking to short everything. Learn to short shit only. Working Smart says, where would I look for info if a stock might do an offering? Well, a stock like NERV, which has very little cash, and now theoretically they have a profitable product, they're going to need to invest a lot of money to make their product or try to make their product profitable and successful. So they're going to need money. So if a company needs money and the stock is up, they're going to do an offering. That's what it is. Pitbull says, what are the three most important qualities, skills a trader should have? Determination, perseverance, and patience, and discipline. 4 qualities. Tim, take a flight to Sweden to share a beer with me now that you have a long weekend. Oh, okay. I'll just ignore everything going on in my life and go to Sweden. I'm sorry, man. I would love to, but I can't. My life is absolutely insane right now. One day I'm going to have to write a book. I can't even share with you a lot of the details. I'm trying to do this new TV show, and the negotiations take forever. Let's see. Best stock pick study lessons. I agree. When people ask me, what should I invest in? I say invest in yourself. Invest in your own knowledge. That is the best investment that you can make. Let's look up exactly what the news is on TTNP so we can try and figure out why it's down. They got FDA approval at 2:44 in the morning. Okay? The first implant for treatment of opioid dependence. That's awesome. And yet the stock is down. Who said that this is not a drug company? Who said that? Trade Not Love says TTNP was not the drug stock. On the contrary, it is the drug stock. And it's going down. So accept reality. MD says, so when I come up with a thesis plan from the night before, should I wait to see my prediction play out before entering? And if I don't like what I see, don't go in. Correct. I couldn't have said it any better. Treat Rayner says, a little off subject. I've been trying to load my trades unprofitably for IB for months. Who is the expert that can show me what I'm doing wrong? Email support@profit.ly. Would MGT be a potential short to hold for the weekend? No, because it has not cracked support, and the pumpers are likely to issue more news to try and prevent it from cracking. Chicago says MGT to the moon. Chicago, I appreciate all your hard work, but you got to stop saying such bullshit. Okay? MGT is a pump. It very well might squeeze. I hope it does, but don't say stuff like that. Come on, you got to think. The Swede says, Tim, all the charts patterns Tim is talking about come true and comes back over time. Thank you for understanding that. Best bet on blacks is according to Tingratani, with each pump the volume will be less and less each pump. Correct. It's like a dying bouncing ball. Look at MGT's volume over the past, this is over the past 10 days. You can see huge volume, huge volume, huge volume, less, 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 a little more, now less. So there's a clear drop in the volume since this supernova highs. And it's not because MGT has some amazing product. It's because this is when the promoters and the hackers were probably working their hardest. Let me just apologize to the chat room. Sorry for my lack of chat room commentary this afternoon. I'm giving a live challenge webinar, and there's more than enough commentary there. Long story short, I wouldn't be shorting VSLR. It's up on positive news, not a pump like MGT. There's a difference. AMD earnings winner is running nicely now. 60 cents a share from my last buy alert. But I won't chase, since support is all the way at $4 a share. So no plays for me right now. TTNP crash after FDA approval means just another example of buy the rumor, sell the news, no different than what plummeting after FCC approval the other day. Remember, GSAT spiked the most out of all of them just on rumors of FCC approval. Rumors oftentimes are better than the actual news for spiking purposes. I know these are tough. Mike, it's okay. Come here, Mike. I know these are tough, weird lessons to go over. Miley, come here. It's okay. My dog is freaking out. My fiance is home. Miley, it's okay. All right. What's up? You got any keys? Cool. So I know these lessons are counterintuitive, but this is what I've learned over time. I know a lot of you can't understand why TTNP is tanking when there's approval. I can. That's the difference. That's what experience is good for. Let's see. Tim, do you buy breakouts or do you wait for the break and dip to hold before entering? Good question, Matt. So on AMD, I missed the initial breakout here at $4 a share, and it went all the way up to like 420-ish. But then it came down and it closed at like 404, and I bought it on the dip. So I actually like buying the dip because if you miss the breakout, oftentimes the breakout only goes up a little bit and then it gets retested, and the retest is actually the better time to buy. And as you can see, this is even after the breakout, it's spiking really on like the fourth day after the breakout. So on big companies like this, there's really not even any rush. It's kind of crazy how long it takes. And this is E-Trade Pro. I apologize. I would love to use Stocks to Trade to show you, but we have a bug right now with screen recording. I'm basically recording my screen, and because Stocks to Trade is new, we have an issue recording the screen. It likes to shut down when there's a screen recording program going on too. So normally I do use Stocks to Trade, but when I'm recording the screen, I can't do it because it would just probably shut down. Let's see. S-Ticker says, how do I minimize my risk for overnight holds, especially regarding news? I don't know. That's the risk overnight, I was shorting MGT the other day overnight when it had that first real red day here in the 280s, and the 3 days of bouncing had failed. Was there a risk that there could be news? Yes. There turned out to be no news, and there was a perfect morning panic to the 230s the next day. So if you're holding overnight, there's always the risk of news, and you have to really beware of that. And that, is one reason why some people don't like holding overnight. But for me, when there's been, a perfect pump and a little failed bounce, this is straight out of my penny stocking framework DVD. This is a classic number 6 pattern, and we got the perfect morning panic the next day, and I profited roughly 50 cents a share. So for me, I try and judge the risk of news, good or bad, against the value of the pattern. And in that case, I shorted overnight because the pattern was so perfect, and I decided to risk the overnight news. The next day, when it closed right at its lows here at 230-ish, I did not short overnight because even though it had gotten close to breaking down, it hadn't done so convincingly, and there the risk of news was too great compared to the pattern. So I did not have a position. As it turned out, they did have news the next day, and it spiked nicely. So at every time when you're holding a stock overnight, you have to judge the pattern and the risk of news. And when a stock, is breaking down nicely here on the first meaningful red day, that's worth it. When the stock is not convincingly breaking down at key support, that's not worth it. We have some new stuff coming with Stocks to Trade that's going to make this a lot more understandable, where it's basically going to give you a diagnosis, a diagnostics of the stock and compare the risk versus the reward on different patterns. And it won't be an exact science, and we'll have to fine tune it a lot, but I'm really excited for that tool so that you understand, not all breakdowns are created equally. And that's coming in the next few months. Currencies says, I wish there were manual notes for how to make millions. Currencies, I wish there were chapters for how to make millions. I wish for how to make millions, it didn't take me 2 months to complete, because in the beginning of the DVD, I actually say E-Trade sucks, and by the end of the DVD, E-Trade is my favorite broker. I wish a lot of things. I wish for unicorns and pots of gold, but at the same time, you have reality. And I'm not organized enough for manual notes, let alone chapters, let alone conflicting information as I build these DVDs. It's all real. And I want to show you the process of how a broker can actually go from bad to good too. I think that's important, rather than me just teaching facts. Everything I teach is kind of like a fluid stream of education. Sometimes it can change and adapt a little bit, and you need to learn how to adapt too. If I teach you, okay, here's a rule, it will never change. Here's a broker, it will never change. That's not based on reality. So for me as a teacher, I have to teach you how things can change. Remember, this is not like mathematics where, 4 times 4 equals 16 always. In different markets, different setups are better than others. And you have to really get the mentality that this is not an exact science. And that's part of the reason why I structured these DVDs. It's not due to laziness. It's to mimic reality in the stock market. And I know that confuses some people, but a lot of other people get it better. Legal Pimp says, can we get a video lesson on getting a meticulous entry? Legal Pimps, I have 3,800 video lessons. I would guesstimate maybe 400 or 500 of those video lessons are about getting a meticulous entry. You need to study more. But when the next trade comes, I guarantee you I will make another video lesson. Quinton Machine says, quit my 6-figure job for this, so I'm excited. Calm down, Quinton Machines. Don't ever give up a steady 6-figure job. I'm not a fan of that. This is a very speculative industry, and you need to learn that this is speculative as opposed to just steady income. I would never give up a steady income for trading. I would go back to that 6-figure job and study at night or study on my off days. I'm glad you got my Hodor reference. I'm sorry if you guys haven't seen Game of Thrones, but you should be watching it. Bruce Wayne Trade says, man, thanks for this webinar, Tim. I need some hard talk and motivation at the moment. I've been studying nonstop. I'm becoming better, even though I make a ton of mistakes. That's all you can do. As a teacher, I make a ton of mistakes, but you gradually improve over time. Chris Cruz says, should I buy VSLR or is it too late? I don't like to buy analyst upgrades either because, this pattern sucks and it's right at resistance. So it's not a buy or a short. The vast majority of stocks that I see are neither buys nor shorts because I don't know the odds either way. There could be another analyst who comes out with an upgrade on Monday, or maybe there's no analyst upgrade and now it'll be a double top. I don't know. I can't guess what analysts are going to do, so there's no play. No different than EBIO. It's red on the day, but there's only like 10 cents of downside and 10 cents of upside, so it's not good risk reward for me. So I'm going to do nothing. Even though if you had to press me, I 100% would not be long. There's a slight advantage to short sellers right now on EBIO because it's gone red on the day and because it's failed and because volume is fading. But at the same time, it's very scary to short on a Friday and the market closes in 5 minutes. So it's not going to tank right now more than another penny or two. So I have no play. Can you explain your thoughts on TISA long-term position? I don't want to talk about my long-term newsletter in a short-term chat room because there's different mentalities and I don't want to confuse you. But long story short, I have a position on TISA in the 170s because it's dropped off the 250s. It's an earnings winner. Most likely it will bounce back to 2-ish or maybe the low 2s. But I don't want to get into that because I don't want to confuse you, because I don't know how long it's going to take for it to bounce back to 2. It might be a week, it might be a month, it might be a year. That's why my long-term newsletter is separate than everything else. Trade Not Love says, Tim, why can you say shit and fuck but it won't let me type it? Trade Not Love because the world is not fair, and it's important that you understand that sooner than later. The Swede says, Tim, can I be in your TV show as one of your students? I think I'm dedicated. We actually have a contest that my team and I are working on to choose 3 lucky students to be on this show. But first we have to negotiate the show. There's a lot of stuff that needs to get done. TV shows, as I've learned, are a whole nother animal, and it takes a lot of time. Flex Trader says, do stocks usually break earnings spikes around a month after AMD? I mean, that's a long time, but AMD is a big company, so I'm not totally surprised by how long it's taken. I like earnings winners that break out like on day 2 or day 3. If you remember, I bought EHTH in the 11s, actually on day 1 when it broke this multi-month resistance. Day 2 was a nice day to 12s, and then it kept going all the way up to the 14s. MITK, if you remember, was an earnings winner I bought on the first day here on the breakout of the low or the high 6s, and you know by day 3 it was already up to 8, and now it's in the 9s. So pretty much every earnings winner that I bought other than TISA has done very well. Again, the strategy isn't going to win 10 times out of 10, but I think with just these 5 examples, you know, MITK, EHTH, AMD, and TISA, I mean, between those, what is that? MITK, EHTH, AMD, TISA. So 4 stocks, 3 out of 4 have kept going. So that's a good ratio, roughly 75% of the time. Will I have another live virtual trading session? Yeah, you know, we got to work it out. I think it went really well. You know, congrats to everybody who learned a lot and participated. We got some really great feedback. You know, I basically did like a 7-hour live webinar, and that was intense, but you guys liked it. That siren, my wife hates that noise. You can actually change, I'm losing my voice after like an hour and a half. On the settings here, you can actually change the sounds. We have all these different sound effects, you know. You can have a high horn. You can have a violin. So go to settings in the Properly chat room if you want to change your sound. Let's see. What do you do if a breakout gets away without testing the breakout level? I shrug and say, oh well. I don't feel bad about missing out. There's no FOMO in my life. Mad Max says, which brokers is Stocks to Trade linked with? Does that mean you can place all trades from within Stocks to Trade? This is an upcoming feature, and I believe the first 2 brokers that we're working on are Interactive Brokers and E-Trade. It's still a few weeks, maybe even a few months away, but that's the plan, where you can ideally trade from multiple brokers inside one piece of software. Stocks to Trade itself is not a broker, but we're going to link to other brokers so that it can kind of be like your command center. Pitbull says, what are your success habits? Work harder than you ever thought possible and push yourself. And don't give up when you make mistakes or fail, because that's part of your journey. Let's see. Best Bet on Black says, got my job changed, my shift to days, but it's hard to trade. Got a new wife and it's hard to trade. Got a new baby and it's hard to trade. Yeah, I mean, there's a million excuses you can make. But it shouldn't just be about trading. It's about studying. Studying is so much more important than trading. You can learn a lot in your trading, but you can also learn so much more from your studies. If you guys are interested in my long-term account, you can go to Timley/Timlong and read about it. I don't want to confuse you guys. The rules that I have for my long-term investments are very different than short-term. You cannot mix the two. S-Ticker said, my virtual trading was really great. Good, I'm glad you liked it. Barney says, it's coming up at 8 in the morning in New Zealand. Time to go watch your grandson play soccer. Awesome, Barney. Good attitude. And say hello to your grandson. I hope he does well today. Matt says, stocks will be good catalyst. Do you look to buy right at the breakout level or will you wait? I already answered that. I prefer to wait, but sometimes, if there's good earnings like MITK, I bought the initial breakout, and you didn't really have a chance to buy at 680 again. Am I going to make a long-term DVD? I doubt it. The rules aren't as complicated for long-term. Nakio says, Tim, when is the conference? It's going to be September 10th, 11th, and 12th in Orlando. If you're interested in coming, send an email to admin@timothysykes.com. All right, guys, the market is closed. We have a long weekend. I hope you enjoyed this webinar. Again, I'm sorry I was late. Crazy life. But this was a good webinar. So, Ben, let's save this webinar. This was, I think I answered a lot of frequently asked questions specifically. So while we didn't have any live trading, learning the rules and learning patience I think are very important. And learning when not to trade is also very important. So thank you again. Have a great long weekend, and I will see you guys in the chat room next week. Thank you again. See ya.
My name is Tim Sykes, and I teach people to trade stocks. I am a self-made multimillionaire.
So this is the ideal trade that I'm going to talk about. I want you guys to understand every single aspect of this trade.